Hey, what is up everybody, and welcome back to part 3 of our Zero to Hero challenge, playing as a Guardian Druid and playing a tank for the very first time. For those that have been following the series, I apologize for the long delay between this video and the last one. Just work and life and everything has just been crazy right now, so it's taking me a little while to get to this. But if it's your first time visiting the channel, well, lucky you didn't have to wait at all. So without further ado, let's get started on week 3. So put the key in, pull timer, and let's go. Alright, so to recap from the previous weeks, we are starting out with an item level of 600, and we have a Mythic Plus rating of 1577. We are rocking 4 set, we were able to get that last week, and our highest time key has been a +5 Dawnbreaker. We still have lots of keys that are just timed as a +2, so we have plenty of room to improve for this week. So of course, let's start off the week by opening our vault. We usually run raid first before we pick an item, but we actually didn't end up doing raid this week because we were busy, so we're just going to pick an item now. And we are honestly just going to end up going for the back piece. Unfortunately, it is only a champion, however, it does have leech, and it is the super rare back piece that drops off the 3rd boss from Nerebar Palace, and it's super good for tanks, so this is going to go a long ways for us. So with that lovely cape equipped, let's get started on our first key of the week, which is going to be a +6 Siege of Borealis. Okay, so as we start this key and go through this beginning bit, I kind of wanted to share a little bit about my experiences so far and kind of my overall opinions about tanking coming from a brand new tank and someone who mains a healer. So first and foremost, is it fun? And I would say yes. I'm actually having a really good time tanking. And I think Mythic Plus tanking is way more fun than raid tanking. Raid tanking for the most part is you have a taunt swap at a specific time and you press a defensive at a specific time, and that's kind of it. I think some of the fights nowadays have changed a little bit more to make tanking more interactive, but the difference between raid tanking and Mythic Plus tanking is completely different. I also think that if you're a new or returning player, tanking might not be the best place to start. And I don't want to discourage people from tanking because everybody knows WoW needs way more tanks, but the amount that is required of you and expected of you as a tank is far more than most other spots. And I think we all know that the community nowadays is quite toxic, and when you have no idea what you're doing as a tank, people aren't the nicest. And even someone like myself who is experienced in Mythic Plus, I've run into people, with that toxic behavior about tanking and me doing things wrong or doing pulls wrong or, what have you. It can be quite toxic. So to be better than the average pug, I have gone into every single dungeon with a route. I'm using Mythic Dungeon tools to plan out where I'm going and what I'm going to be doing. You need to know what pulls you're going to be doing so you know what direction to go in and so you can get your percent right. You don't want to be wandering around lost because you're not sure if you need this pack or that pack, and you don't want to get to the end of the dungeon and be completely over on percent and could have saved an extra minutes, or be completely under and then have to go back. I think that is super important to make sure you get that right. And as the tank, you're kind of the leader of the group by default. You set the pace for your team. If you go too slow, well, people are going to be upset because they're going to be wasting cooldowns. If you go too fast, well, you're probably going to die and people are probably going to be upset. I think most of us can tell in the first few minutes of a dungeon whether a tank is experienced and knows what they're doing compared to having absolutely no idea what is going on. And I also think route building is kind of fun. I like to sit there and kind of build my route. I'll take a screenshot of it, save it, and then I use that and put that on my second monitor, and I use it as my map, so I know exactly where I'm going. I know everyone doesn't have a second monitor, but if you do, I highly suggest doing that. And regardless of what key level you're doing, you're always going to make a mistake. Something's going to happen. You're going to die. you're gonna pull extra, what have you, and someone's gonna get upset. And I think just not getting too defensive too quickly, and just saying like, yeah, my bad, I think that goes a long way, because a group can get diminished so fast and waste everybody's time if people just start pointing fingers at each other. You know, sometimes you make a mistake, you come back from it, and you just say my bad and you keep going. So yeah, overall, it's been really fun. It's been really good. I've enjoyed it a lot so far. So now jumping up here to the very end, to be honest with you, this key was almost near flawless. We had one death. It went super, super smooth. It actually went so smooth that we ended up getting the 2 chest on it. And a +6 has so far been my highest key. So getting the 2 chest on that makes me feel pretty good about myself. So we're gonna get a solid 69 points out of that. But unfortunately, we are not gonna get any loot, which is fine, but you know, it is what it is. So the key went so good, we're actually just going to keep our same team that we had before. We're going to jump into this +7 Arakara, which I think is the highest key we've attempted so far. It's going to be a +7. So this first pull here, we are going to pop Incarn, and we're going to do what everyone does and grab all this trash and run straight to the first mini-boss. A lot of these trash mobs are small. They don't hit that hard. It's not terribly difficult, but the hardest part about this whole thing is getting aggro on everything, especially when your team starts popping off before you ever get to the end. And I actually think that's one of the most challenging parts about tanking, is holding the aggro. And it's usually the biggest issue at the beginning of each pull. And let's be honest, guys, if you're running with a bunch of pugs and you tell them, hey, can you wait a few seconds? They're not going to. They're just going to pop off every time. So that puts a little bit more stress on you as the tank. But hey, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. We ended up getting feared there, but we recovered. Really good heals out there from that Disc Priest, and we're gonna actually survive that pull, which for me, that's impressive. I also was thinking about it too, being item level 600, I feel like a +7 as a healer would be low. But for me as a tank with an item level 600, +7 is really hard, and I'm concentrating really hard to make sure that I don't die here. And I have felt a little discouraged because of that, because I feel like, oh man, I'm item level 600, like I should be doing higher keys, like these shouldn't be this difficult. I know I've done like a +4 in the past at the same item level, and it was like kind of difficult, like I was struggling. It's like, why am I struggling? I have such a high item level. But I guess honestly, I'm a noob, you know, I'm just doing things incorrectly. We're getting used to it. So getting to the first boss here, I kind of realized that positioning is super important on this boss, because I pull him over here to the left hand side of the platform, but that's where all the eggs spawned, and you don't want to pull the boss next to all the eggs. So we're actually going to take him and rotate him to the completely opposite side of the platform, because you don't want those eggs to get to the boss. It's also pretty important to clear the entire platform for this boss. We left some ads up on the left hand side, and though it's not too big of a deal, we are kind of just juggling around, not trying to pull them. If we do pull them, I think we'll take care of them just fine, but again, we should have just cleared them to begin with. Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie here, I got a little bit carried away with this pull. I pulled the right pack, told the DK to grab the left pack. I had Incarn up, and when I have Incarn up, I feel like a god that I can't die, so you know what I did? Yeah, I pulled like 3 more packs. Definitely got a little too overconfident. And my team had no idea what I was doing either, because they're still over there fighting the last pack. So like I said previously, you set the pace for your team as the tank, but if you pull too fast, you know, you're gonna have issues, especially if you don't tell your team. And it's totally true, if you have Incarn up, you are a god, but as you notice, the second Incarn falls off here, that's when I die. So this group wipe here was absolutely 100% my fault, without any doubt. But it's okay, I just hit him with an LOL, my bad, and everything's okay. So we're definitely taking things slower this time, pulling just a couple packs at a time, and you know, it's going a lot smoother, saving more time not dying than pulling 4 packs and dying. Alright, so I want to know, for all of you multi-class tanks out there, which tank do you find the favorite, the best to play, the most fun? Not necessarily meta, but the most fun. Because I think right now, one of the things I do not enjoy about bear tanks specifically is Iron Fur. And we've kind of talked about this in the past, but I don't really enjoy just constantly spamming my Iron Fur button. Like, I just hit it constantly. When I'm in a dungeon, I'm just spamming it constantly, just hitting it over and over and over again, non-stop. Probably press the key at least 10,000 times in each dungeon, just spamming it. I've also macroed it through to my thrash button as well, which might be kind of cringe, might be kind of a noob thing to do, but every time I hit thrash as well, it uses iron fur, just so I can work on keeping my iron fur stacks up. And I just don't know if I enjoy that gameplay of having to constantly keep something active at all times. Like, do all tanks play that way? I'm assuming not. You know, everyone plays a little different. Each class plays differently. So I'm not necessarily sure if I like it all that much. I don't have much to compare to because I've never played any of the other tanks, but for the most part, hasn't been my favorite thing about this class specifically. So we did end up losing the healer there. It looked like he got caught up in that impale. You know, happens, especially when you're playing a priest who's super slow. But we have that DK that was able to get him up with his battle res. Because guys, it sure as hell wasn't me battle resing. But boss goes down with no other issues. We still have 16 minutes on the clock. We're still making really good time in this dungeon. So moving down to this entryway here, I thought this was a fairly easy pull. And to be honest with you, it is, if you don't get rooted. And on top of that, you also get a slow on you as the tank. And as soon as those stun circles come out and you're slowed, it's extremely difficult to, not stand in those. Could I have shape shifted out? Yes. Would I have died? Maybe. When you get rooted as a tank, shape shifting out sometimes isn't the best choice because then you lose all your armor. The group did keep the pull alive though, so we're able to just run back in there and, finish up this pack and kill everything. And I'm sorry guys, I don't care what you say, I will never go left or right. I like going just straight down the middle because of those slows and those roots from those ads. I'm just gonna go straight down the middle. Don't tell me to go left, don't tell me to go right. I don't care if it's faster by maybe a minute. If we're cooked on time, sure, maybe. But other than that, we're just gonna go down the middle. I'm only saying that because I've had people tell me, hey, what are you doing? Why are you going down mid? It's like, cause I'm the tank. I'm gonna do the route that I wanna do. If you would wanna do a different route, you tank. All right, so moving into the last boss here, we got 11 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock. I actually did my percentage incorrectly, so we still have 2% to get after we kill the boss. And as long as my team doesn't steal my root spots, we should be good. As you see, I specifically moonfired that one, claiming that one as my own. Also, I always forget about cat form sprint because I'm not actually tanking the boss during the pull. Cat form sprint is totally an okay thing to do, and I always forget that I have it and that I can do that. But no one's stealing our pools, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna be just fine. We actually only lose one person right here at the end as that slime pool rolls over the top of our shaman, but we kill the boss without any other deaths on that boss, and we just gotta get that 2%. So naturally, we're just gonna run over here to the left-hand side, grab this pack, which should be fairly easy, shouldn't have any issues. No, of course not. We're gonna just run in here and immediately die. But let's be honest, who really needs a tank anyways? The team is just gonna clear up the rest of it, getting the percent we need, getting us a +2, giving us 58 points, total score of 1704. And I think that's our first timed +7. And, it might have been a slight carry. There was a super juice shaman in there that did a bunch of damage. But that's what you get for pugging, you get to pick your groups when you're running your own keys, so, you don't stank a good shaman there. And we are going to walk away with some bracers there. Unfortunately, it is not the sack brew trinket that me and you and everybody else in the world wants. But hey, it's an upgrade, and we'll take it. Oh, just kidding, guys. The sack brew trinket did drop, and we're going to roll on it and win with a 22. Our poor disc priest rolled a 1. Very unfortunate. So hey, we got 2 pieces of loot to include our best in slot trinket. So next key, we are hopping into a +4 City of Threads with a fresh new group. And we're gonna start off here by pulling these 2 packs together. And one thing that I've kind of learned, another little tip here, is that the first pull of every single dungeon should be the biggest and best pull that you're gonna do the entire time. The reason being is because that is the only time in the dungeon that every single person's cooldowns are available at the same time. So your first pull in every dungeon should be the craziest, the wildest, the biggest thing you could possibly do. And I know that this pull isn't that big, it's just these 2 packs, but that is something to consider every time you're running a dungeon is how big are you going to go for that first pull? You're going to have every cooldown. You might even have lust. You might want to use lust during that first pull. So always make your first pull the biggest one you possibly can, but make sure you survive. So we are going to end up struggling a little bit on this double pull here. The beetle ad has an ability called Ravenous Swarm, which does a whole bunch of ticking damage across your entire group, which is a big heal check for your healer. And the spider ad has the Twist Thoughts ability as well as the orbs that shoot out. So this double pack can be quite difficult. So we're definitely feeling it here. We ended up losing our hunter, we lost the mage, and we just lost the rogue as well in this one single pull. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I am a healer main, and I hate when people blame the healers, but I'm not gonna say it, but I think you know what I'm thinking. So moving to the first boss here, I'm not gonna lie, I think this is probably one of the harder bosses to tank personally. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of defenses that you have to use for that tank buster to stay alive. And then just trying to position yourself so you don't get stunned, as well as making sure you're in a good spot to pull everyone back and not kill your entire group, which is exactly what's gonna happen here. And I've struggled on this boss before, and I continue to struggle on this boss in the future. It's just not one of my favorites. But losing 2 people here, including the healer, this is definitely gonna be a wipe on this boss. Alright, so we run it back again, and here we are in our second attempt on this boss, and go ahead and make your cruel remarks now. Granted, we did have someone die at the very beginning, so we had a huge loss of DPS, but this also isn't the best tanking pattern I could have done. Mistakes were made, friends. Mistakes were made. And that is going to be the key there. The rogue left, so we're not going to be able to finish this. Which feels pretty bad, going from timing a +7 to bricking a +4, but it happens, I guess. Alright, so the last key that we're going to be jumping into for the week is going to be a +7 Grimbatol. And again, we didn't run that many keys this week. We did like 4 or 5 keys just because it was super busy for us. So this, again, is going to be the last one. And most of you will probably agree with me, but Grimbatol is probably one of the harder dungeons out of all the dungeons that are in the pool. There's just a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of stuff that just is going on in every single pull. And it's pretty hard. It's tough, not gonna lie. So for this pull here, though, we're gonna make it quite decently sized here. We're gonna grab the Pat 2 on top of the dragon and the first pack. Once again, we're trying to go really, really big in the beginning because we have our Incarn, we have Lust, we have all these other cooldowns going on, so we wanna go big. We did lose a couple people here, though. Not a big deal. We ended up pulling through and able to clear this first pack. Was it worth 30 seconds? I don't know. Maybe. But we didn't do a full wipe, so. Moving up to the third pull of the dungeon, we are going to grab the 2 on the right and pull them into this group of 4. This does save a little bit of time because most of the time you're not going to be using your dragon fireballs to attack those 2. So pulling the 2 pack on top of this 4 just makes it go a little bit faster. There is going to be that second kick in there, though, so make sure your kicks are on point. So moving up to the next room here, we actually did have a death on the last boss. I fell over because I didn't have a defensive up, but it was at the very end, and we just beat-resed me, and we were fine. But moving to this room, this is kind of where things get hard in this dungeon. And they only get harder moving on. This dungeon starts off fairly easy, and then just progressively gets more difficult. And I think one reason why it is so difficult is because kicks and stops are so crucial in this portion of the dungeon and moving forward. Alright, so we managed to clear the trash, and the boss is coming back around, and I just immediately fall over. And I think it's because I did have 2 stacks of the dot that those ads give you when I pulled the boss. I should have waited for the stacks to fall off and then pull the boss. But now I know. I had no idea beforehand. Luckily, we had a battle res ready to go. We're able to get back up. No other deaths. Really good bait there. Baiting those frontals into the middle so it's not taking up extra room. We do end up losing the healer here through the Molten Sparks and the AoE going off. And because I already used a battle res as soon as I got into this pull, we don't have a battle res, so there's going to be a wipe here in this boss. We kept it a lot cleaner going into this pull. Healer did a lot better keeping everybody alive, and the boss goes down. We do have 10 deaths though, which is pretty bad for a +7. You know, sometimes these lava benders can be pretty tough, but other times it's not the lava bender that gets you. And then the very next pull here, which was just a 2-pack, the healer got hit by the frontal, but the DK somehow had the audacity to say, "How are y'all dying so much?" Sometimes it's hard to tell sarcasm over a text, but I don't know if he was joking or not. So this key was pretty difficult. It's pretty tough for the tank. There's a lot of things that hit really hard. There's a lot of dots that stack on the tank. There's all these different mechanics going on. And we got to the last boss with 1 minute left on the clock, which is not enough to obviously kill him. in a single minute. Top of which I did my percentage wrong again. We're at 98%, so we're gonna have to go back. But this could have easily be timed if we didn't have 18 deaths. And this is one of those instances where, you know, I'm item level 603. I feel like a +7 shouldn't be that hard. If I was healing a +7 with an item level 603 healer, this would have been easy. I would have not struggled at all. But tanking is just a whole different animal for me. So we actually end up having 2 more deaths in the boss fight. We did have 2 battle reses, so it wasn't too big of a deal, but thankfully we were able to finish the key. Nobody left. We have to run back here and get some percentage real quick. We are going to get 31 points out of it, which is going to leave us at a final weekly score of 1735. So not as much progress as we wanted to make this week, but that's okay. We still got plenty of time to get to our final goal of 2500 as a Guardian Druid tank. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe channel to support the channel. I'm going to keep pushing out videos as much as I can. I also live stream on Twitch frequently. If you guys ever want to stop in and run some keys with me, please, by all means, whether you want to do a +2 or a +10, you know, I have a character that is capable of doing anything in between. So let me know, and we'll see you guys in the next one.